Good evening. You gotta get off the chair. Get off the chair.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight is the final meeting of the Board of Finance on the proposed budgets for 2019-2020. And as most of you know, we will be voting on both the Board of Ed and the city budget this evening. And in order to accommodate the members of the public, most of whom I believe are here for the Board of Ed, we will take the Board of Education budget first. And I would open the floor to any members of the board who would like to speak on the Board of Ed budget at this time.
This is unusual, we don't usually do this, but Jim, can you tell me what you keep saying about the retirement? What is the cost in retirement? What comprises the cost of a teacher when they retire? You said that this is a big part of your cost.
Teachers, it doesn't matter whether it's teachers, there's whatever the collective bargaining agreement says that the employees are entitled to when they retire.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that retirement account is for, to pay out retirement benefits per contract.
The teachers get paid by the state?
No, it has nothing to do with their pension.
What does it to do with?
This is their severance pay, and it depends on which contract, when the teachers entered, but they're entitled to a certain amount of cash out of their unused, a certain percentage of their unused.
Do you have an average on that?
No. Every teacher's different.
Do we have figures in the budget here to show that?
You have the dollar amount that we project.
Yeah, what account was that on that? Do you know?
That would be. That would be account 1130.
Did he give us a figure on that we anticipated in the year?
He did give us a figure. The figure he gave us at the end of the year was an approximate surplus approaching $1 million, I believe.
How about the retirement projected?
I didn't give any projection.
You didn't give a projection, but you agreed that, yes, there would be a surplus, and it would be under $1 million.
It would be under $1 million.
Right.
That's
It
a
would be
big
under $1
gap.
million.
That's a big gap between saying it's $1 million and being it's under.
Yeah.
Well,
What are you anticipating for this year? You don't know yet?
no, Joe, we've already been through that. We're not going to get into it again tonight.
You have no idea?
We've already discussed this already.
I know.
Mr. Chairman, I don't think it's really out of protocol to be going over this again. We just like all other department heads, we answered all the questions that the Board of Finance had.
That's enough.
There was follow-up questions, which we answered all of those questions. We followed that up with discussion at your technical session. I think it's up to the board to vote on it.
Well, that's fine. If you,
Make the motion.
usually we like to give members here an opportunity to provide any supplemental information, but we can proceed either way.
Let's proceed without it.
I'll move to approve. I'll move to approve $94,478,487 for the Board of Education. That cuts their request by $600,000.
I'll second it.
So could you repeat the motion?
I'll move to approve for the Board of Education $94,478,487. 478, 487. Just subtract 600,000 from 95,078,487, which was their request.
There's a motion made. Thank you, Mr. Castanoli. Is there a second?
I second it.
Seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion on the motion?
I'm gonna disagree with that. I'm just wondering why you came up with that figure. I mean, I think the board presented us with a
I
reasonable
think there's gonna
budget.
be a surplus, okay? We were told there will be a surplus, okay? So I think that's more than enough. And they'll still have a surplus after that.
I mean, I think.
I mean, that's what we were told.
And we know that surplus goes to building and grounds and.
Well, we just,
I mean,
we just spent $1.3 million on buildings and grounds from 2 years ago, okay? That's $1.3 million, and I doubt that that money has all been spent.
I think they gave us a list of.
They did, yes,
Yep, they did.
but I don't know if it's all been spent. It may have been committed, but it hasn't all been spent. Okay, so.
Mr. Chair, just through you, my observation
Yes,
is
Mr. Mayor.
just that the last several years, the Board of Ed has come in with very lean budgets. I have not provided too much input just because they have been sensible. The overall budgetary expense that has been approved by the administration and by the board has come in such that the overall, spending and tax rate of the city budget, inclusive of both the Board of Ed, we've had pretty flat budgets, and that's because there has been that relationship between what's come under the school side and the city side. So anytime that you have a school budget under 2%, which it has been at least for the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, I'm generally supportive of it. Again, taking into account some of the factors that make the Milford Board of Ed budget unique. But they have, I give them a lot of kudos. They have come in at very lean budgets that I'm supportive of just because of the fact that they do look at the fluff, they do look at some of the fat, and they trim it before it even gets to the board, your board, or the Board of Education even. So that's my position, and I think that one of the things that we may have to ask are what would be the consequences of a reduction of $600,000. I know that we just had a discussion with some of the people here, but what are some of the things that, or the types of programs that may be affected?
Well, I'm sure that could be presented to the Board of Aldermen. They have the power to put the 600 back, or 300, or 500,
And also, I'm not total agreement with you, Mr. Mayor, on that fact that they do a good job. Because the last time they did a study about closing any school was 5 years ago. And in that period of time, we lost a lot of students, and I'm sure we could lose a school as well. I understand the problem of presenting, from the Board of Education's point of view, a closing of a school, the riot that would be in the streets for it. But that is not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to the taxpayers, to keep the costs down. That is not keeping the costs down. If you're keeping the school open, that's costing us money. Maybe by a leaner budget here that we're given, they could start thinking about taking the bull by the horns and doing a full study and not wait out 5 years and do nothing. Most businesses, if you do a study, you even give out a result of that study to the public. But they don't. They just said, no, we're not gonna do it. From my financial point of view, that is just poor business. This is over half our budget. Half the city budget is for the schools. Granted, I do wanna have money for the schools, but there's something wrong when your city budget is less than what your school budget is. It's gone the other way. Granted, they got 1%, 2%, keep going up and up and up. Students go down, down, and down. I don't know, I haven't looked at the teacher enrollment. I have every book going back 10 years, but I just don't think they're acting responsibly, and I think they have to start acting responsibly, in my point of view. Thank you.
Well, I certainly share some of Mr. Fitzpatrick's concerns about enrollment and our facilities and what may be needed at this point in time. But I am reluctant to just simply, make a significant cut. I do think that the Board of Education and the city as a whole does need to evaluate where they are with their buildings, where they are with their enrollment, and reconsider again. I know the board made a lot of effort several years ago to consider what our needs are as far as the number of schools and the enrollment in each school, but we continue to lose approximately 100 students a year, almost 1,000 students over the last decade. I think structurally something needs to be considered. But having said that, we're still dealing with the number of schools and the number of teachers for this immediate budget. So I am reluctant to simply reduce the requested increase by that amount of funds. As much as I agree with some of your statements, I don't think I can support the motion as a whole.
Take a vote.
Any further discussion on the motion? Any further discussion?
I would just remind you, Brian, that the Board of Aldermen did put the money back.
I understand.
Okay? I mean,
It does require, I think,
This is-
two-thirds majority.
They have
majority. Mayor, any other members? Is there any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, no further discussion. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
aye.
Opposed? Opposed. I think, even though there's five of us, I think we have myself opposed and Lauren opposed, Scott opposed. Opposed?
Okay.
Okay, the motion fails 3-2.
Get some of it.
I moved to-
You, hold on. The motion was to cut 600,000 from the budget. There were 2 votes in favor of the motion, I believe, Mr. Fitzpatrick, Mr. Castantoni. Any other? So the motion fails, 2 in favor, 3 opposed. Well, we need to,
I move to approve the budget at $95,078,487 as presented by the Board of Education.
there's a motion made, is there a second?
I'll have to second it because I don't think I didn't do it as well, but so I'll make the second.
There's a motion made and seconded. Any discussion on this motion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, yeah, I do fundamentally, I agree with Joe and Joe. I think a lot of with the surplus, especially in the last couple of years, there seems to be a surplus, and it doesn't necessarily be exactly clear to where we sit, where it gets allocated to, and every year it just seems to be spent rather than come back to the city. So fundamentally, I think I agree with Joe and Joe, but I do not think that this is the place to take away funds at this time, but I think the message was pretty clear.
I disagree that we're taking funds away because of the fact it's indicated that they're going to have a surplus. so we're not taking any funds away.
Well, just to be clear,
Well-
the surplus doesn't roll over into next year's budget, or into this budget. It's either given
It
up.
creates a surplus, this budget will create a surplus.
I'm not sure if I follow you.
Yeah.
Could you explain that?
Yeah, if they come in with a surplus this year, that will be carried as an expenditure. They will expend that money. And I'm assuming that if you keep going with that route, this budget will have a surplus. This will have a surplus. Because we're increasing this budget, we increased the budget last year. They have a surplus in the year before. We have 2 years in a row, we're gonna have a surplus, and this is the third year. Why wouldn't we have a surplus this year? That's my contention, is that this budget is overstated. And you don't, since we don't have a line item explanation on things, really. I mean, sure, they could say, yeah, we have it, but then they end up with a surplus. How does that happen? And it's not all retirement. I know it's a big part of it, but I don't think it's the main focus. So consequently, I just could not go for the 95 million.
Thank you. Do you recall what the increase was last year? Do you recall what the increase was last year? No, I thought it was in the.
No. 91 to 93, 2 million. Less than 2 million.
Mr. Chairman, you're asking for last year's
Last year's
increase.
increase?
When it was finalized by the Board of Aldermen, I believe it was 1.48%.
I never saw it.
1.48. Like a 1.360, 1,368,889 was the increase.
I can't imagine conscious agree with that. Like we said, maybe the Board of Aldermen will take a stronger stand on it. Thank you.
Any further discussion on the motion?
No. One point seven.
All-
That's 1.4, 1.7. We're going 300,000 more than last year's increase. Right?
That sounds about right.
Yeah, they were 1.7,
Yeah, the 1.4.
and they got 1.4 the year before. And the year before that was about 700,000. I don't know which way you wanna go, people, but you have a responsibility to spend wisely.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor and seconded. Is there any further discussion on the motion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay. Motion carries 3-2.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
close that.
You ready to start talking? For what? Well, you're gonna have to make all the motions.
None of this one,
No, not on this one.
yeah.
Peter, do you have a preference on how the motions are made? Because we,
I don't have I know we have a custom, I
Yeah.
can try to find my notes.
well, I think we would typically,
Just go right through.
go right through until someone has to recuse himself or have a comment or a change. Or do we have any technical revisions to the budget this year?
We had met with the fire department because there may have been some fire department adjustments. We will likely save that until the Board of Aldermen's deliberations because some of the fine tuning needs to be ironed out.
Okay.
Okay.
So, Mr. Fitzpatrick, I would suggest that as you make a motion, you can go through, and we'll
Just
just
the heading?
just the heading is fine, we don't need the number this year?
Well, we could, you can give the heading,
And I'll try.
if you can try, or you don't have to give the fund, but.
The fund number.
Yeah, the number.
Just the number of the,
But just an overview, we normally do the general fund expenditures first,
On page, starting on page
Yeah.
14,
then we'll go to sewer fund expenditures, then sewer fund revenue,
yeah.
then marina expenditures, marina revenue, golf course expenditures, golf course revenues. Then you'll go to the general fund revenues except for current year taxes. We will have a recess, not recess, break, yeah, recess, for give me time to calculate current year taxes and the mill rate, and then we'll resume the meeting and continue with the current year taxes vote and the mill rate.
Okay.
Brian, point of order.
Yes, sir.
Is it possible just to adopt the budget as the mayor presented it, instead of going through all the accounts? You recuse yourself for, I think, one account, pass the entire budget that the mayor presented, since, you know, we really didn't have any deletions or changes.
We have done that before, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've done it, yeah, I remember when I was on the board, we can just pass the whole budget and amend it, you know, or exclude, you know, Brian's account that he has to
I have to
recuse himself
recuse
from.
myself from the Milford Progress
Right,
and from the city attorney's office.
right, and we'll pass everything else. I mean, we you know, we agreed on everything
never
else just
changed
about.
anything.
Nobody had any deletions or decreases, so,
I have no opposition to that, because unless there's any technical changes or any members are making
right, there are none.
increases or decreases.
There may be some slight technical changes on the revenue side, just because the city assessor has just recently set the grand list, but other than that, I don't think Peter and I have anything to present to you.
Okay, well, we can make I think then the appropriate motion would be to adopt the expenditure side of the mayor's proposed budget.
Right? Yeah,
Excluding, let me just pull out,
NPI.
MPI, and the city attorney, and then I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Fitzpatrick and the chair for those two items. Is there okay, and with that point of order and an excellent suggestion, is there a motion to approve the mayor's budget as presented in its entirety, with the exception of Milford Progress and the city attorney's office, legal department, which I will be recusing myself from voting since I'm
so move the expenditure side.
on the expenditure side.
Right, so moved.
So moved, seconded.
There's a motion made by Mr. Castagnoli, seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Is there any discussion on the motion?
I have to also be recused from
And,
outside of that.
yes. Scott is also on MPI, so.
Where is that?
Um,
Oh, it's over there.
yeah, it's in the grants. Any further discussion on the motion?
MPI is page 91.
91, yeah.
Thank you. City attorney,
Okay, we've got pictures, we've got 1, and 24 is the city.
thank you, law department. There's a motion made and there's a second. Is there any discussion on the motion?
No?
I would just like to note for the record that I think the mayor did an excellent job and the department heads done an excellent job in keeping the budget more or less flat. And hopefully you will see the benefit of that and when we adopt the mill rate later on this meeting. Any further discussion?
Make a motion to approve
Uh,
the NPI.
Okay, well, there's a motion made.
On the first one, we were
Yep.
upset.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, Mr. Fitzpatrick, I will
Okay.
recuse myself and you turn the chair over.
Okay. Okay, make a motion that we approve of the law department 10055054131 and Milford Progress 1005059984419 as presented, huh?
Would you be able to take them up separately, because Brian has to recuse himself from both? like-
Oh, that's right, very good, yes. Well, we'll take the law department first then. Approve the budget as presented for the law department.
Second.
Yep. Any discussion, or all set? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Make a motion we approve Milford Progress Inc.
Second.
as presented.
Second.
Yeah. Another discussion, no? All in favor?
Yes.
Oh, that's nice.
Like that, huh?
Yeah, I like that. Okay, now we have to go to, we're all set.
That should be it. Thank you, Mr. Fitzpatrick. You want to do the revenue concept, the
Sewer fund.
sewer fund?
We had nothing on that.
Page 97. So this is revenue and expenditures for the sewer fund and sewer expenditures, sewer commission, page 98 through 100, wastewater 101 through 106. Is there a motion on to approve? And then
So
the-
moved.
Second.
And that's a motion to approve both the revenues and expenditures for the sewer fund. There's a motion made by Mr. Castagnoli, seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, enterprise funds, revenues and expenditures. We'll do harbor management commission first. Pages 108 to 109. Is there a motion to approve harbor management commission revenues and expenditures?
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Castagnoli, seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Finally, golf course, page 112, golf course enterprise fund revenue and expenditures. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion to approve by Mr. Castagnoli. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Fitzpatrick. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, under general fund revenue, I would say entertain a motion to approve everything other than the taxes line item. And if we could pause at that moment so that our finance director can calculate what that figure is. But I would say that you first look at all the other revenue line items to see if there's any adjustments that you'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Any members have any comments or questions on the revenue line items?
We have
Pages-
nothing more from Hartford, yeah?
There's been no final budget, they're going back and forth between what the governor presented and what the legislature is taking up at their finance level and their appropriations level.
Okay.
I'll move the mayor's recommendation.
The motion made, is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Fitzpatrick. And that was, all general fund revenue except for current taxes on page 4. Motion made and second, any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, we'll take a,
We have to put in, oh, didn't we do that?
yeah,
The operating budget for the education.
yes,
98 million.
yes. Take a, well, we don't think we need to recess.
You're all done, Peter, aren't you?
We'll just allow the finance director an opportunity to
No, don't
run
give
his
them that much
calculations.
time.
And
It
when
shouldn't, since we didn't have a lot of changes, it shouldn't take just a
Yeah.
few minutes. I just think I'll take a second look.
Yeah, please take your time, we're ahead of schedule.
Two.
Back with Benjamin Button.
There's a budget that we have personally, $100.
You have to wait long enough to be correct. We'll say the golden clock is right twice a day. To, daylight savings?
Really? The whole thing?
Yeah, give this to Chris.
Yes.
Yeah,
Wait, what's that? I thought Florida isn't doing daylight savings anymore.
I just don't understand why we're
I forgot what I just
paying
heard.
12 million.
They're like only, what is it, Arizona? and-
$12 more
I know the Panhandle has a different time zone than the rest of Florida.
I was just in Florida and the time zone changed, I mean, the time changed while I was there.
Right, but they're not going to in the fall.
Oh, they're not
Because
gonna
now-
do it
Right, this is
in the,
where
oh,
I'm
okay.
Everybody should have seen it coming, it's like,
Yeah.
it's getting harder and harder to get rid of this stuff. All the landfills in the city, in the state are closed now.
I think I,
There was only one left way up in the way.
My father was just so, he used to like to turn the
Every
flash
day,
like the day before,
more and more
just to get a
difficult.
jump on
Get
things,
rid
so
of
you
it.
never knew what time it was.
It's hard to get rid of it.
I just wonder, do you ever see any complaints about the ash from the trash? Complaints about the trash energy?
At the Wheeler plant in Bridgeport?
Yeah,
The burn
yeah,
plant?
yeah. I've never seen them writing in the paper on it.
I think that all gets shipped out to Pennsylvania.
No, they burn it there.
Well, I know, but then they ship it, they.
Connecticut burns all our
Huh?
refuge. Yep. There are some cities that do ship, like Stanford does,
Oh, yeah,
ship their solid waste.
yeah, but do you see the tonnage on that?
No, but even when you burn it, you're left with a.
Yeah, well, that's not a problem. They're charging us only $61.
Yeah.
Recycle go to shelter is $73.
It is a trash energy, so it does generate electricity.
Yeah,
There's,
just makes sense. All Florida practically is gonna go that route. That article tells you who's more aggressive on it. And I think we should be aggressive on it. Why should we pay, what, 200,000, what'd you say we would pay, 380 now? No, I thought we'd be.
for our tipping fee, we're paying, as of July 1st, $75 a ton for recycling.
Oh,
And right now, we pay $61 a ton for our solid waste.
right,
So it's probably gonna be, we're probably gonna go from making about $80,000 a year in recycling to having to pay $250,000 to $300,000 a
there you
year.
go, right.
And our solid waste is gonna cost less per ton than our recycling.
Well, we have no choice but to recycle, that's state law, right?
State law requires that we recycle certain products.
I think the legislators should start working on that.
Agreed.
Absolutely work on this thing. They have to, they're gonna have
So
to.
one of the pilot programs that some towns are being allowed to do is that glass is not going to be part of their single stream recycling. They get to recycle it in a different way or through a different mechanism. And that's something that we may try. You know, there's obviously an education component to it. And glass, however, is one of those things that contaminates all the rest of it when it breaks up in the truck and sticks to all the paper products. It becomes difficult to recycle. The other thing that they're looking at doing is increasing the bottle deposit from 5 cents to 10 cents to incentivize folks to return their cans and bottles.
But he wanted to go 25 cents on the beer, right?
I don't know, I think they should put
Oh, is
a
it
5-cent deposit or 10-cent deposit on those little nip bottles, because you find those everywhere.
Yeah,
And I think people would pick them up if there was, you know, a 10-cent deposit associated with them.
I don't know if we have any stats on the return. The state is taking in X amount of dollars, how much they pay back out, in other words, they're gaining money, there's no question about it. People don't return bottles. That's coming down though, I know that you hear the kids, the generation millennials now, what are you using a plastic bottle for? Because I like it.
Guilty as charged.
Good.
Oh my gosh, what's wrong with you guys?
Ah. Okay.
Okay, I think, everyone, Peter.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, the current year tax number is $177,206,516.
Can you do that again, Peter?
177.
Yep,
206,
yep,
516.
yep.
That brings the grand total of the budget to $216,528,371. That's 216,528,371.
And that goes,
And the mill rate for the Board of Finance recommended budget would be 27.68. It's 27.68, which is a reduction of 0.06 compared to last year's mill rate, which was 27.74 last year at Board of Aldermen.
And that's a little bit different from the numbers that we had back in early February, because the assessor has not set the grand list yet, and we had a little bit better news on the grand list than we had thought.
So the new grand list, if
Please.
you'd like, is $6,576,682,875. That's 6,576,682,875. It's an increase over last year's grand list by roughly 9.8 million to round.
And again, it would have been approximately $42 million more, but this was the year that we settled the big tax appeals from the last reval, including ones like the mall.
Why do we have such a decrease of that? They just underestimated when they did it, or?
A lot of the cases settle, even if our assessor's figure is 99% right there, on a big $200 million assessment, even if we compromised it and it's only a few $1 million difference, that adds up with all 2,500 properties, 25,000 properties that we have in the city.
How many, any appeals, how many appeals we have altogether? You have any idea? Bruce?
I don't have this.
Several hundred.
The big one obviously is the mall, I'm sure of that.
And there's other large
Yeah.
ones as well, but the
Yeah.
mall is one of the largest taxpayers that we have, so
They do the evaluation
over 200
based
million.
on at the time of the reval, right?
And the
Not
good
at the time they lost all the business.
Well, the thing that we had going for us with the mall reevaluation 3 years ago was that the mall actually had an arm's length sale right at the time of the reevaluation. So we would actually have one would think that the exact dollar figure, but even with that, there's some play that experts that the mall hires can utilize to plead their case. once it got to the litigation level, which it did.
Yeah.
So this new grand list number that you just provided takes into account of the settlement of most of the significant appeals?
So it was an overall $42 million increase, but there was $37 million due to tax appeals and demolitions, I guess.
Okay.
So
That
mostly tax appeals.
adjusted the.
So next year's, it will more likely than not be a big chunk without that reduction from the tax appeals. We'll be back to, one would hope, assuming that the trajectory continues, another large increase. This year was about $9 million.
Any further discussion?
None here. No,
Nope.
he doesn't go from here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah, so the-
Peter, anything further?
I think just to get the vote on the final mill rate,
Final.
I'm sorry,
yeah.
the final revenue figure,
Yes.
and then I think the final budget and mill rate together.
So if we just walked out of here and left, we would not have a budget.
I think we need one more vote.
I do,
It's a good thing I asked.
thank you, Ben, really, for, it was a good budget, it really was. It really was, thank you.
Okay, per the mayor's reminder,
Make a
is
motion.
there a motion to approve the current year taxes together with the mill rate and final revenue? You want the exact numbers? Or
Sure, I'll let Peter read
Yeah.
the total
taxes?
amount of taxes due, as well as the mill rate again, and the final overall budget.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
The current year taxes is 177,206,516. And the total budget combined is 216,528,371. And the mill rate, 27.68.
Is there a motion to approve those numbers as adopted?
Move to approve?
Motion made by Lauren, is there a second? Seconded by Scott. Any discussion on the motion?
Yep.
Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion is passed unanimously, and the budget is adopted in accordance with the motion. Thank you all for your efforts this year.
So,
Thank you.